All right, guys, excited to join you for this last live segment of the day here for Friday, and it's been an incredible day. Lots of amazing speakers and lots of people sharing their perspectives on hope and on following your passions and finding the things that are really important to you, so we can apply that in a world after COVID. And we've had people talk about coming together and reducing the divisiveness and empowering people, whether that's giving them jobs or being able to have conversations. It's just been a really incredible day. And I'm excited to help round this out. And what I want to talk about today is our propensity to freak out. So we have a situation that comes in front of us, and we fail to follow through with what we set in our minds or the intention that we have for the conversation. We really are holding this space of not allowing ourselves to fully dive in and understand the other person. And at the same time, we fail to follow our dreams or our bliss or our passions or the things that are really important. And that's really what I want to share today to wrap up this first part is like that you have the power to follow your dreams. You have the power to go after what it is that you want to create, and it all resides within you. And what this talk is going to be about is about building that resiliency that allows you to go out and create, go out and make the things happen in the world that you desire, that you want. And and so that's kind of the message that I want to get around here. And I just want to thank you all for tuning in to the Global Hope Summit in general, to my talk here. And I just know that we're going to continue to dive into more and more incredible things as this weekend moves forward. So really excited to share this with you. So I want to start by telling a story, a very deep, important story of my own. And it's July 2015. I'm sitting in my apartment and the phone rings. I pick it up. It's my dad on the other end of the line. And he says, "Mackenzie passed away last night." Now, Mackenzie's my 6-month old niece. And my heart just like stops for a moment in my chest, and everything just kind of fades. And I just go crazy. There's thoughts everywhere in my head. What happened? Like, she's only 6 months old. Who did this? Like this, and just like the rabbit hole of emotions and the rabbit hole of thoughts just goes crazy. And I wanted to know who was responsible. How did this happen? How can I, even get back, like reach out and hurt somebody else for the way that I was feeling hurt. Like all those things were happening in my head. And but I knew more than anything else I needed to be with my family to support them. And I'm unique. Random fact, I'm the oldest of 9 kids, so I have a very big family, and I knew this was going to be a really impactful event for all of them, but especially my sister, who was her mother. And so I jump in the car, I drive over to my parents' house, and everything just continued to roil in my head. All the pain, all the desire for revenge. Like I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a program for what to do when a 6-month-old baby girl passes away. And so I get over to my house and I walk in, and I can immediately see that everybody is feeling the exact same way I am. Everyone is freaking out. They don't know what to do. They're crying. They're anger. There's like a well of emotions all across the room. And in fact, my dad and my sister weren't even there yet because they were still dealing with the police. And everything else. And at some point it almost became too much. And I sat down in the middle of the room and I started to meditate. And the reason I did this, I knew that like someone had to be there for the family. That was like deep within my bones, is someone had to be there to help and support what was going on. And so I knew of everyone there. I kind of felt like I had the tools that other people didn't. I'd been involved in personal development for a long time, and various things that I'd learned to deal with crazy situations. And but even then, like I was at my wit's end. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I wasn't. I didn't know what to do. And so I sat down in the middle of my parents' living room, and coming from a family, most of them don't meditate, but I sat down in the middle of this room and just started meditating. And rather than thinking about trying to quiet my thoughts, I just wanted to get hold of the train of the rabbit hole that was coming through. And um so I went through a practice that I'd heard a while back, which is this imagery of a car coming down the street, and you're sitting on the side of the road, and the car will go down from the left to the right, another car will go from the right to the left, and you've got all this traffic. And but you don't reach out and grab on to a car. If you did, it would drag you down the street. And so I'd learned how to kind of not let that happen with my thoughts, not let a thought drag me down the rabbit hole. And so I sat there, and I'm feeling all these emotions. I'm feeling this trauma. I'm feeling myself freaking out, and my I'm feeling the lack, honestly, of being able to support myself, let alone other people. And so in that moment, I kind of sit there and I focus on my breath, and more thoughts come up, and it's like the revenge comes up, and then I start to go down that rabbit hole, and I stop myself and I focus on my breath, and everything just continuing to pour through, and every emotion. I can even hear people in the other room, talking to each other and crying, and I just refocus on my breath. And after a time, and a lot of time pulling myself back into the breath, I was reminded of something that a mentor of mine said a long time ago, and it's that every single person comes here with a soul contract to do something that they're supposed to do on this earth. And every person that has that is creating a specific experience for us so that we can evolve, so that we can grow. And that perhaps that my niece had come to this earth to create that experience for someone else, and that she, in her 6 months of living, she had done everything that she needed to do while she was here. And in the moment, I found a lot of solace in that thought. Whether it was true or not, I found solace, and I was finally able to find that like place, that deep place within myself, the one that is like behind everything else, that watches you and is unaffected and is always okay. And um, that was the experience that this did for me. And I'm sitting there, and like finally I get that level of comfort, of peace that I was looking for. Um, and and my mind starts to quiet down, and I get to that center, and I end up sitting there for about, in total is probably about 20 minutes. And once that's done, I really felt, like I kind of rapid processed what was going on, and was able to then get up and support other people, support the family, support my sister when she got back, and be kind of a shoulder for other people at the same time. And Amazingly, that night I went home and in about 15 minutes I actually wrote a song that um, that just kind of poured out. And it's not something I do all the time, but every once in a while I like to create music. And that kind of creativity, I believe, and honestly, my ability to that I've found at this point in my life to not freak out really came out of that situation. And um and and I don't think without it I ever would have found this. And it's incredible. We've heard a lot of things today about people who've been through hardships, and we all have our challenges. And I think it's what's most important is that you're able to face those challenges head on with what you're trying to create and with what you're trying to embody in the world. And I don't know if I would have ever really learned what I learned about not freaking out if I hadn't have been there and if that hadn't happened. Um, and so what I want to do here is I want to talk to you guys about these seven foundational or these seven foundational beliefs, these like supporting beliefs that I've been able to embody over my life in order to develop a sense of calm in crazy situations, a sense of calm in the storm. And these, like I said, someone said earlier, beliefs are not facts. And I definitely, I'm not saying that any of these are true. What I am saying is that these beliefs have supported me in allowing myself um, to live a life of calm. And of course, I believe they're true, but that doesn't mean that they're absolute truth. And I don't want to I don't remember who said it, but you know don't trust anything I say. Figure it out for yourself a little bit. But I do know that these beliefs have been a foundational points in me creating the the capacity to not freak out. So the sorry, seems like we had a little tech glitch there, but we're good. Back up. So it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to agree with everything um, that you hear or that you learn. You don't have to believe. Heather today talked about there being various poles, and our goal is not to sway our beliefs, not to come apart necessarily from what we believe, but to learn about another person's perspective, to learn and understand another perspective. And and so that's really what this is about, is that I'm here to learn, and I'm going to take a learner's approach to life, and to the things that I try to create. um, and like the power in this belief is that even when you make mistakes, you're learning and growing. Every mistake you make, every quote unquote failure, is just another step on the path to mastery. Right? There's not really you can't really fail. Not really. Like failure is just like this in the moment feeling that really doesn't serve the larger picture of what you're here to create. And when you internalize this belief, you start looking at yourself as who you've become or are becoming rather than who you've been. And like that's the most important. Like how can we look at who we are becoming? And the second belief that I've used quite a bit is that no matter what, I'm going to be okay. And we've had a few people reference this today as well. It's that no matter what happens, we can always, there's a certain part of us that can always come home to being okay. It could be argued that maybe that's not true when we actually die, depending on your beliefs, but unless that happens, we're going to be okay. We have all the capacity in us to figure it out. Our brains have been like tuned into this to like look at the unknown and immediately see fear. It's to create a fight or flight response that kept us alive for millennia in an entirely different world and really no longer applies in the safe, secure nest that we've built for humans. Like even the there's countries, of course, all around the world who are dealing with many problems, and I don't want to shy away from that. But in the majority of the world, we've built an incredibly secure space for humans to thrive. And does that mean there's not more work to do? No, but we don't really have to deal with a lot of the things that we used to have to deal with. We don't have to deal with dying every day, or at least we think we don't, right? Like it, in fact, as we talked about today with Jesse, like we are really all mortal, and there is something to be said for that. But no matter what, deep inside of you, you're always going to be okay. I look at this belief and look at this statement of that I'm going to be okay, really coming from a place of understanding what it means to be me, right? That no one in the world can ever take away the experience of who you are, that you are the person having the experience. And no matter what you go through, no matter what happens, that fact will never change. You are, and the fact that you are will always be, and from now on always has been. And no one can ever take away the fact that you existed. You've created this crazy miracle of life that you've got to experience, that you've been able to come here. Like that is true now and forever, that you are here. And no one can ever take that away from you. No one can take away the fact that you are the one experiencing the world. This doesn't mean this isn't to talk about your beliefs or outward appearances or anything like that. Like all that can shift, but you deep down are here, and that is unchangeable. And when you realize that, and you really internalize that has already happened, already is, that ultimately you're always going to be okay. And when you start from that place and then allow it to blossom from that place, that feeling of being okay becomes unchangeable. And that deep, solid part of what it means to be you'll never lose. You can find what Nelson Mandela never lost in all his years of captivity and extreme torture, who he was. Right? And that's really who we are today. So I want you to just think about that, internalize that. I realize that's a little bit of a, it can seem like an esoteric concept, but I do truly believe that I will always be okay, and so will you. The next belief is that I can always rely on myself to find a solution. I know that if I can figure out a solution, I know I can figure out a solution for anything that comes my way, even if that means I have to go talk to someone else who knows the answer, if that means that I have to try a bunch of things out until something works, if that means that I need to pay someone else to handle it, whatever it is, I know that I can always find a solution. And when I come at things from that perspective, it opens up my brain rather than detracting from it. It doesn't place a box on what I'm allowed to do, because I know that like I can look anywhere now, because my goal is to find a solution to the challenge in front of me, whether that's the whether that's something that's going on in my business, whether that's something that's going on in a relationship. um, I always have the power to ask, I always have the power to learn, to experiment, and when I need it, to get support. And I trust in my own ability to find a solution to anything that I face. And that trust has been built up over time. Of course, it takes time to develop, but those little wins, when you check the box, every single one of them, it's like, oh yeah, I found a way to fix that. And that's massive confidence that you've been able to build for yourselves. And I recommend you do that. I recommend you go, even if you start small, start where you think like you really believe like you can start small and develop this belief, develop this reality, right? As Frank talked about at the beginning. And so like, and that's freedom is really the power to make conscious choices. And, I and you both have that in waves. We have the ability to choose what we want to do. That's what freedom means. It's that I can consciously make a choice. It's not programmed into me. It's not someone else's choice. It's not because something that someone told me was some way. It's that I was able to know and choose what was right for me. This doesn't mean that I'm perfect. I'm obviously not perfect. But I know that I can find a way forward, and that things will always continue to move forward no matter what. And since time stops for no one, then all I need to do is find a solution. One thing here I've learned to, like, even ignoring something and just hoping it goes away is a choice. It's a choice to distance yourself from reality. And sometimes you may need to do that. Sometimes you may need to take some alone time, some sad time, some heal time. But ultimately, everyone has to meet life head on. Everyone has to accept whatever happens and whatever is happening, if you're ever going to fix it, if you're ever going to find a solution. And so whatever the challenge is that you want to create, that you want to build a solution for, you first have to accept that that problem exists, and also accept and believe that you and all of the myriad of things that you're connected to have a way to solve that problem. And honestly, this is what a brain was built for. It was built to process the world and to create options for us, choices. And so, I know that I can always find a solution. My next belief is that everything that happens to me works out for my highest good. And this could be construed in a number of ways, and this could be a very controversial belief. And like I said, beliefs aren't facts, but they are what I believe. There's been many moments in my life where I perceived something negative to be happening, and including the one that I described in my story with my niece. I've been fired. I've been in car accidents. I've struggled to lose weight. I've experienced feast and famine in my business. I've had very close friends and family members die. There are parts of my life that haven't been the easiest to handle. I mean, there's times where it kind of feels like an all-out race to survive, and yet through all that, I grow and I move forward. I become a better person, a more powerful person. And there's no way I'd ever be where I was today without all of those experiences. And I think one of the hardest jobs in the world um, is to be grateful for negative events in your life. And I think that's such a powerful thing. So I just want to say it again. It's like the hardest job in the world is to be grateful for the negative events in your life. But I truly believe that in this moment, like when you can learn gratitude for the things that, on the surface may look harmful to you, they actually lose their power over you. And like you gain the power to define the context and the meaning of that for your life, whether it doesn't matter or it inspired you now to take up a mantle and help someone in another way. Whatever that event means, you get to decide, and you get to decide what you do as a result of that. And if you have the power to decide, you have the power to make it work out for your highest good, as long as you accept that it happened. And like that same, world-shattering event, that same death, that same virus, that same like whatever it is, like you can find gratitude for it and then find the opportunities that come from it. In the seeds of every painful situation is an opportunity, and it can be the catalyst you need to take the next step forward for whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. So anytime you have a negative event in your life, feel the emotions. I'm not saying not to do that. Those, that's part of what it means to be human is to have emotions. But take a second look at it. Take a look at it for the positive impacts it created. Maybe it's going to take time for you to figure out what those are. But just know that no matter what, it is going to create positive change in your life, and you're going to be able to neutralize any charge or negative energy around that through gratitude. There's a quote that I love from Marcus Aurelius. He has a in his meditations journal, which was really just his journal, and we released it to the public. But he said, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." And I think there's so much of the past that we hold on to and we feel like has to affect us in the moment, that we forget that all that could have just as easily contributed to the good that we have and experience today. And so just remember that everything, I'm not telling you what to believe, but I'm telling you what's worked for me. So everything that's happened to me works out for my highest good. And I believe that you can have the same. And this is similar, but I have the power to choose how I respond to any situation. Like we've been programmed, and I talked about freedom being conscious choice earlier. Like we've been programmed to react in certain ways, and the things that have worked over and over kind of get pushed to the background. It's like, oh, we do that the same way every time. Cool. Now we know how to do that. And there's nothing wrong with sort of programming, the right response for the moment, but if it's never been consciously looked at, if you've never taken time to bring it up to the surface and say, is this something that's great for me? Is this something that's really working out how I want it to? And then decide whether to keep or change that programming. Then that's how you know. So ultimately, though, it's your choice to respond in the same way or do something different. Even if it's programming, yes, it's harder to get in there and work with that. But if you see something wrong in your life, you always have the power to choose how you respond. Doesn't mean you always make the right choice, but you always have the power to choose. And because of that, you have to take responsibility. You have to take responsibility for how you act, how you interact with others, how others, the boundaries that you set that allow others to interact with you. All of those things, like, until you take responsibility for them, you can't make a change. And so, like, deep down behind, like, all the interactions that are happening in the moment, like all the programmed responses, like, ultimately you made a choice to respond that way. And so own it. And until you own it, you can't change it. But when you do own your choices, when you decide that, okay, this is actually my responsibility, this is my thing to change, then something powerful happens. Because you now, just by having that belief, that thought, you open your mind to be like, okay, cool, how could I actually change it? Now the question in your mind becomes, how can I change it? Not, I guess it's one of opportunity rather than victimhood. And like, there are things that you can't change in life, but there's a lot that you can. Like, you can't necessarily change the cards that you were dealt in life. Like, those are part of the description that created you, right? But you can always choose how you respond. Your how you the reaction you have in the moment might be harder to change, but there's always a brief window where you can grab it and you can decide to do something different. So you have the power to choose your own response. And like anything else, it's a skill. It's a skill to develop. And honestly, I think that's sort of the core ideal, the core result of mindfulness, is creating the power to change your reaction. The next is that whatever you want to call it, the universe, God, my team, my families and friends, the world around me, the things I'm living in, the situation I'm living in, always has my back. It's always there to support me. Whatever your beliefs, like, there's things in life that always support you, that you can always rely on, whether when you're feeling down, when you don't feel like you have everything you need, when you feel like you're not enough, or you feel like where you feel like you can't always make sense of everything going on. Even when you're feeling like that and you don't understand the larger picture, you don't understand what's happening outside of your own interpretations and emotions and biases, there's two choices. You can believe to live in a world where everything is out to get you, or in a world where everything is out to support you, or the middle gray area, right? But ultimately, like, when you're in a situation where you don't believe that you are supported, you lose confidence. You lose this part of yourself that that lets you step up and be you in the moment. And when you feel like the world's attacking you or trying to destroy you, like, it pushes you back into a shell. You shy up and pull away from the world around you, from interacting directly in the moment with what you are trying to accomplish. And so instead, just choose to believe that everyone is on your side, that everything, so that all that is on your side, and whatever it is. And when things don't go according to plan, assume that something even better is going to happen as a result, something better than you ever thought possible. And I'm not sitting here lying to you and trying to tell you that everything that you ever try is going to work out. But when you're focused on a goal and you're focused on, living your own truth and stepping up and being a beacon of hope, for what you're trying to do, like the right people show up around you. And that level of authenticity, that level of belief, like it breeds, it creates the right support for you. And that's one thing about authenticity I've always kind of struck me, is that if you're not acting authentically, then the things that are going to show up for you in the world are going to be the things that are supposed to be for someone that you're not. So what I mean by that is, when you send out into the world, you request things, you put on a certain face, you get on social media or wherever, and you create this fiction, or this persona of who you are. The people are gonna show up who think they can, support and be a part of that persona that you've created, rather than actually showing up for the person that you actually are. Yeah, I mean, if you don't believe in who you are, and you're not willing to be authentic in a way that allows even your own beliefs and your own power to change, then you're never going to get the support that you need. And which brings me to the last one. All of these kind of this one kind of stands on all of the other ones. Me being okay, me believing that everything is a learning opportunity, me believing that I can always find a solution, that everything that works out to me always works out for my highest good, that I have the power to choose how I respond to any situation, that all that is has my back. It all comes down to create this one thing. I have the power to make the best of whatever cards I am dealt in my life, whatever they may be. I internally have the power to make the best of it. And no matter what, I will be okay. No matter what, I can choose how I respond. No matter what, I will have an incredible array of resources and people and friends and things to bring to any situation that life puts in front of me. And even if I don't have those things, I can find them. And ultimately, like, I can take responsibility for the life that I create. And there's many other positive beliefs that can inspire confidence and the calm that I'm talking about here, but I think these are really powerful and can really connect. And if you can connect in with those, you can they can help provide the framework for you to move into a space where you feel confident and calm to take action. And that's really what we're trying to do with what we are doing at the summit, with what we are doing here. It's all about helping empower you to take action on the things that you're passionate about, knowing that you have what it takes to make a difference. And out of that breeds all the hope in the world. And that's really what we are trying to do with this entire summit. And that's been my, part of my mission, is to help people realize that we do have the power to change what's in front of us. And because we believe we have that power, we have hope, because we know it's possible. And the fear that can come up in the moment, doubt, the distraction, the pieces of the puzzle that feel like they don't fit anywhere, or the times when you feel like you don't fit anywhere. All of that really comes around to helping you have the experience of becoming who you were meant to be. And at the end of the day, that is a good thing. And we can always be hopeful that what comes next and the journey that we're on is here to create an epic life for us all, even when there's COVID, even when, there's all kinds of things going on in the world, people not being respected, people fighting, people, creating these different polls, creating, all of this, whether it's drama. I mean, there's real problems going on in the world, and I'm not saying there isn't, but what I am saying is that we have the power to change it. And I think I will stop my part of it there, and let that sit for just a moment. And normally we would go into normally we would be wrapping up here, but since I ended up having the last talk of the day, we'll probably bridge right into that. But just for a moment, I want just sit with that there is hope, and that what's coming out of this, out of the world that we live in, will be better than we ever thought possible. That's what I believe. So, yeah, I want to thank you for showing up, for participating full out in the summit here, and for everything we've learned so much today, seen so many different perspectives, and I've found, for me, there's at least a few common threads that are really rolling here. And I think a few of the best things that I saw come out of today is the amount of people who talked about connecting with other people from the human perspective, from seeing people. I said it as a joke to someone earlier, but I think I'll say it here too. To start connecting human to human rather than demon to demon. And there's all the demonization of the other side that's kind of been perpetuating our society. And like, the way to come together, the way to heal, is to have those conversations, is to be willing to listen first and understand first before telling our own point of view. And I think that was one of the big threads I saw running through today's speakers. Another was following your passion, really taking a look out. And I hope through the rest of the summit, you keep an eye out for things that excite you, that you can create in your own life, and find your own mantle to take up, and to the thing that really means a lot to you, whether it's as simple as, something, I say simple, it may not be the right word, but Jesse working, to just connect with his dad over the ALS journey, or something bigger, like wanting to provide sustainable communities in Haiti, like Frank does, or working with business owners to create opportunities for them to hire more people and do that more effectively. There's all these ways that we can show up in the world that are like right in line with our passions. And I think that really is what I think we're really trying to get across here in day one, is that you do have the capacity, even in the darkest times, to follow your passion, to create something new, to find the opportunities. And in fact, that might actually be the best time. And and uh, and that we want to connect as humans as a part of that. And I think the other thing, both in my speech and in others, what I heard more than anything else was, and I think all of us need to know, is that we're going to be okay. And I think that with that, we'll wrap it up for the evening. And I will see you guys tomorrow, bright and early, for me.